Voices. All right, good. Well, thank you for attending today. I put a bunch of signs up and down the hallways saying the free Surface giveaway was in this room, and so hopefully nobody's too disappointed that you got sucked into my session instead. So welcome. We've got a lot of fun things to talk about today. So I'm Kyle Young. I'm a lead program manager on the AX development team. I'm in the service industries group, and I focus on expense management, time management, as well as our companion app strategy. And if you twist my arm, I'll be happy to demo a few of our new apps, our mobile apps today. So we're excited to see what we've got going there. So I was thinking back as I was looking over my slides 2 years ago at Convergence. We were just on the verge of shipping AX 2012. We were very excited about some of the capabilities. One of the areas that I owned at the time and still have a deep passion for are the things around empowering a broad set of employees across the company. It would be ideal, in my mind, if every user in a company is an AX user, because that means that we're providing value to them in their everyday job. And so we want to continue to empower users. And driving productivity and controlling costs, those are all things that are constants, things that we talked about even 2 years ago. And that was one of the motivations behind the employee self-service capabilities that we launched in 2012. We've made some investments to that in the last couple of releases. In R2, there's improvements, for example, in expense. Some sizable investments we've made there to help improve the experience and support cross-company scenarios and so forth. And so those are the kinds of things that we talked about a couple of years ago, and a lot of those are still relevant. And we still have a deep passion for empowering every user in the company to be an AX user and give them something to do their job. But some things have kind of changed. So back when we talked about taking self-service to new levels, we talked about empowerment, enforcement, and efficiency, and those are all still very relevant. And at the time, it was valuable to have self-service capabilities in a portal environment for which we didn't need a client install, and it was a lot easier to get reach to the users in the company. And those are all still true. Those are all still valuable. One of the things that's changed, and we'll spend a fair amount of time on today as the world gets more connected and more distributed, are mobile scenarios. And so while it's great to have scenarios that are available to people who are running the AX client and those who are on CorpNet that can take advantage of the Employee Services Portal, we're hearing from all of you more and more. My users are distributed, my users are on the go, my users are mobile, and so forth. And so for the past couple of years, we've actually been making a fair amount of investment in that space, figuring out how to take the set of devices which don't live on CorpNet, which might be users bring your own device. How are we going to enable those variety of devices to have applications and capability that are going to be able to talk to AX on premises in an authenticated way, in a secure way, and make that a usable and a great user experience. And so we've been working on that. Some things have happened in the meantime as well. In the last, we've been tracking for the last year the progress of the tablet space. Particularly, we're excited from a Microsoft perspective about the launch of Windows 8 and the set of devices that are coming and will be coming in the future, that have come and will be coming in the future, on to take advantage of the great Windows 8 experiences. And so when we roll all of that up, you'll see one of the reasons why part of now our taking self-service to new levels includes the next level, which are mobile applications. So we're going to talk about some of the basics today, travel and expense management. We will also touch on ordering products and services, which is one of the self-service capabilities. We're going to talk about expense and order approval, and throughout this discussion today, we're going to weave in and out the mobile application capabilities. So let's get our stars for the show today. Let's focus on Tricia, who is your typical employee. And we hope that there's lots of Tricias in our customers' companies that can take advantage of these self-service capabilities. She's on the go. She has some things that she needs to do. She needs to get a travel requisition approved. She needs to capture expenses while she travels. She needs to complete an expense report. And on top of that, she needs to spend some money in other creative ways, like ordering a copy of Office, and her monitor just died, so she needs to replace her monitor. So those are all things that she needs to get done, top of mind for her. And so we'll take a look at Prakash. And notice how awesome these people look when they're using the Dynamics AX applications. You too can look like this. Of course, I've been using them, and, well, anyway, I don't know what happened there. All right. So Prakash needs to do a number of things. He's got to, as a part of his job as this awesome project manager, he needs to approve travel requisitions and expense reports and timesheets and employee purchases and keep on top of all of that. And so we're going to show you some things that we've enabled for Prakash. All right, so let's just jump into the first demo. So in this case, Tricia has created a travel requisition, and we won't take the time to go through creating one of those. The capability in travel requisition is virtually unchanged between AX 2012 and R2. And so that's the consistent experience. But one of the things that we hear consistently is that it would be awesome if we had a way of doing approval via email. So let's suppose that we need to get this travel requisition approved. And I need to introduce Josh from our development team. Josh, if you want to come on up, introduce yourself.
Josh Honeyman. Ooh, there we go. Wow. My name is Josh Honeyman. I'm actually the engineering lead for the workflow framework in Dynamics AX. So how fitting it is for me to actually show some of the email approval aspects of the product that Kyle's team is delivering.
There you go.
I go under here, right?
Okay. So Josh is our expert. I'm going to switch over here. Hang on just a second. Well, you don't need to use that.
Oh, I don't
camera. Yeah, it'll project here. All right. Let's switch over.
And by the way, I'm one of the few Prakashas from a small town in North Dakota. There's not many of us, but I'm one of them.
Okay. There we go. Sorry. There we go. Okay, there we go.
So here I am. Opened up my email. I see that I have a approval email that has come to me. Let me open that up. And the first thing I'm going to notice is I have the nice instruction information that comes from configuring my workflow. If you guys have seen workflow or been to the sessions, when you configure workflow, you have the ability to send detailed instructions out to the user so that they can complete their approval or task. So all that information is bubbling up into my email for myself. I'm getting information about the travel requisition number, who it's from, Tricia, and the information about the total cost of the travel requisition. And the next thing I can see here, obviously, is the ability to directly approve or reject right from my email. This could be on any device. I'm showing this from my Windows phone here. So let me just click Approve. And we will get a confirmation fairly quickly here, whether that has succeeded or not. As you can see, that has actually gone through, and it says I have approved. Just to verify that, if I come back and click again, you'll notice that it's going to tell me that this document has already been approved. So this is actually communicating back into Dynamics AX, calling into our workflow framework under the covers and taking the corresponding action and moving that workflow forward. So as you can see, very powerful. Don't have to be on CorpNet. This can be on anywhere in the world, on any device, all through your email. So pretty cool stuff, Kyle.
All right. Josh, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for showing that. Also, thank you for approving the travel requisition. I wasn't able to get anybody who knows me to approve it, so that's helpful. All right. So that's the first step. And as Josh pointed out, we've always had or for some time in the product, we had the ability of generating email based on an approval assignment. Now we have the ability to take action inside that email. The information on configuring this and the hotfix that is required to enable this, that information is now available on Partner Source, and so if you just search on email approval on Partner Source or Customer Source, you'll find a new white paper that we published within the last few days. Okay, so let's go on. So now let's see, is there anyone here from out of town? All right, good. Yeah. All right, so most of us, this isn't a home game for us, so we traveled here. Is there anyone who happens to have incurred some expenses? All right, come on, get them up there. All right, good. All right, is there anyone here who's ever lost their receipt? Okay, yeah, all the time. Is anyone who ever fakes their receipt? Never mind. The cameras are rolling. We don't want that on the camera. Okay, so one of the things that's valuable is the ability to capture receipts as we travel. And this is something that I've demoed in the past, and we've taken a look at it previously on Windows Phone. And we got great feedback on that feature, and it was about a millisecond after we talked about it and showed it on the Windows Phone. The first hand up was, okay, how about the other platforms? Yeah, because I've heard there's 2 or 3 people that may not have Windows Phones yet. And so we don't want to, we want to be conscious of them. So if I were to go into my Dynamics app here on my Windows Phone, just to refresh you what that looks like, I go in here, we'll get back to timesheets in a moment. I can capture an expense on my Windows device. But let me show you the new investments we've made in iOS and Android. Okay, so let's take a look. These. Okay, so the one on the right is iPhone, and the one on the left is Android. You can see that the styling we've used on those devices is more consistent with the look and feel of those devices. In fact, you see a lot of commonality. There's been some sharing, I understand, between those 2 platforms, and so we were able to have a fairly common experience across iOS and Android. And so if I were to go to Add Expense here on the iPhone, I can go ahead and add that expense. So let me just enter that for $29. And I'm going to put a comment here that this is a cab. Cab, right? Let's see. For some reason I don't know how to type on an iPhone for some reason. Okay, and I have a receipt here. And actually I literally got this receipt last year at Convergence, and I expense it multiple times a week. And so if you try and get a hold of me, I'll be on an extended vacation starting next week for some time. So I've got this trusty receipt here, and I want to capture that. So I'll do this here on my trusty iPhone. Okay. Now, part of this I'll get back and show you here. Okay, so now I've captured the receipt. That looks like it's somewhat legible. This receipt's getting a little worn. I might have to find a new one this year to use, so I'll capture that. And now you can see that I've captured the receipt and the expense information, and I'll go ahead and save that. And that's always awesome when you get the successful prompt in a demo. Now it's on its way to AX, and we're going to see that in a minute. And so that's the iPhone version. The Android version looks very similar. You can see that there's some similarity there. A few things are different. The date pickers and so forth are using the more native date pickers for those platforms, but you can see that those are fairly consistent. So that is the kind of the next thing that we wanted to show you, which is expense capture across all 3 devices. The Windows Phone application is in the Windows Store now. The iOS and Android versions will be out in a time frame hopefully measured in days to weeks. They're actually technically finished. We're just now finishing our internal release process to get those into their respective marketplaces. But they'll be in the iPhone and the Android marketplaces, fairly shortly. The information on how to configure this for your organization, again, is available on Partner Source. If you search on Dynamics AX Mobile, you'll get to a page that has the information on configuring AX and the components you need to basically configure to be able to enable the use of the apps. Okay, so that's demo number 2. Yeah, I'll show you. That's a great question. It goes into unreconciled expenses. Let's see, 7, right? Thankfully, somebody's watching, knows what's going on. Okay, so that was demo number 2. And I'm going to allow some time so we can drill down deeper for some additional questions at the end. Okay, now that I'm traveling, I want to be able to capture my expense reports. And in the past, when we would demo this, I would go to EP, and we would create an expense report there. And we've made some improvements in EP. We've gotten some feedback, and we think that we have helped to clean up and make that experience more usable. And so you'll see some improvements in R2. And I don't want to spend too much time on that because I wanted to actually talk about the going forward investment that we are going to make, that we'll be releasing by the end of the year. So let's switch this over. Let's see. Here we go. Yep, that's Okay, so as was mentioned in the general session, we're making some investments around Windows 8 as well. One of the first investments we're making is around expense reporting. So imagine now that we have, you open your trusty Windows 8 device and choose the expense app, and now here's what you'll see. First of all, we'll show you new expenses. So we see here we have these 6 new expenses. We'll show you hopefully some helpful data about how much money you have sitting in draft and in review and rejected. Now, in my case, that rejected line would be a lot taller. But for most of you, you probably won't see much of that line. And then things that are in approved, and those are things that is all, those are all funds that are, in various process. Right? So the next thing that you'll see is that we present the expense reports in their various states. And so you can see draft expense reports here come first, and then they go from draft to in review, and then rejected, approved, and then processed for payment. And so that's basically goes through the progression of states that we would expect for an expense report. Okay. So let's drill down into one of these and take a look. The other thing I can do is I can sort this by date. So if I want to see these in date order, or I can go back to status order. There's kind of a big one here, this $2,700 and change. I ought to take a look at that one. So I drill down into it. And this is an existing expense report. And so within this expense report, we display the expenses based on categories. And these are the categories that come straight from AX. They're the ones that you've defined. We simply grab those and represent them. And if I want, I can tap around and get a little bit of a drill down on this one. So I can see that this is a hotel expense and see a little bit more of the detail. If I want to take a look at this meal, I can drill down on that one and take a look at it. And notice that we're, wherever we can, we're using those what will become increasingly familiar constructs of Windows 8. Who here are Windows 8 users? Just had a question. Okay, good. How about on tablet devices? Some? Okay, excellent. Good. So hopefully this experience becomes a familiar experience for more and more of us. I also have another view here, which is a view by calendar. One of the customer feedbacks we've received is I would love to be able to, as I'm finishing and completing my expense report, I'd love to be able to see these a week at a glance and see if I'm missing anything. So I don't really have too much here on Tuesday. I'm sure that I spent more, I had additional meals, and I might have other things that are familiar. And so showing this in a week at a time calendar view is one of the things, one of the options. So I can go back to category. A couple of other things here as well. If I let's say I'm finished with this and I want to submit. We're going to give the user a breakdown of the categories on this report. These notes here are the workflow comments if we were entering this on EP, and so it would just be easy to capture that as part of the submission action. Okay. Now, let's say I want to edit, so I can click on this one and edit it. And you see now we get into the relevant fields. And one of the things that the application will do is it will respect the display settings that you have in AX. And so depending on which fields that you've chosen as an admin experience to display, the app will respect those and display them. You can see here that you have a choice of dropping down and selecting categories. We can scroll through these, quickly get to them. There. Anyway. Okay. And so that's a way of going through and editing them. If I want to add a receipt, I can do that. And you'll see here that there's receipts that I may have already captured, and so I can go add one of those, but I can also capture them on the fly with the camera. And you don't want a photo of me, so I'm going to change to use the other camera. And I can, once again, use my trusty receipt here. This isn't probably the ideal lighting for this kind of thing, but it's all right. So, anyway, so I'm going to capture that. That will there show up here. You can see that I just captured it. I can then select that and add that to an item. And next time we look at that item, it will have refreshed that. So, okay. All right, so that's a way of adding a receipt. It'll show up here. There's just a slight delay. So that is the experience for an existing expense report. Let's go back out to the top and let's take a look at these. It tells me I have these 4 new expenses. Let's see what that's about. Okay. And this is the unreconciled experience. And so from this view, you can see those things that are uncategorized. I maybe didn't even have time to give it a category. I just took my phone, fired, and forgot. Or I just captured a receipt because I knew I was going to need it later. Some of these already have categories. And these can include, let me sort it by source. These can include those items that have come in from my credit card download. So for organizations that enable credit card download, those will show up here as well as the receipts, as well as on the left here would be the things that came in with my phone. Mostly in this case, it's me playing with my phone, but that's okay. So the other thing here is if I want to drill down, I can drill down on this expense, and not only will I see the expense, but I'll also see the receipt associated with it, and if I want to, I can take a deeper look at that receipt. When I'm ready to create an expense report from any of these views, I can grab several items, say new report, give it a purpose. So this would be my purpose. I can choose a project, press save, and you notice those drop out. Now I've created an expense report with these items. I can go ahead and finish that up and submit it. So anyway, so that's the expense experience. Let me just see a raise of hand if anyone sees a slight delta or improvement over our EP experience. All right. Good. We're hoping so. We're very excited about that. All right. Let's keep going. By the way, we'll have all of these applications in the booth. If you come down to the AX booth under the service industries, we have a bunch of surfaces and a bunch of phones there. You can get hands-on, you can give feedback. We'd love to hear your feedback and get a chance to play with the apps. Okay, so that was our 4th demo. And actually, I'm going to throw, before we go on to ordering products, I'm going to throw in another couple of items here. Let me just back up. Okay. So consistent with entering expenses, it's very common for a number of us to need to enter time as well. And so one of the things that we've now added to our phone application is the ability to enter timesheet. And so here's the Windows version of the app, and I can take a look at my timesheet. And you can see that we display it in a kind of a calendar format using the metaphor. It looks somewhat similar to what you might see from the Outlook calendar on the phone. So I need to do a little bit more on last week's So I'm going to go ahead and add another hour here for a different project. I'm going to go choose a different project. It's that East Side SharePoint. If I needed to, there are more details. I could choose a different category, a different activity, provide notes, and so forth. So I'll go ahead and add that time entry. Okay, you can see that that's now successfully saved. That's going to refresh. And you can see that now I have 5 hours instead of 4 on a week ago on Monday. So I'm quickly being able to edit and update my time. So from the phone, you can actually enter a full timesheet, and once it's completed, you can actually submit it. So that's an addition we made to the phone app. Let's see what we've done on the Windows 8 side of things. This is the work in process Timesheet app for Windows 8. Again, you can see we have some similarity in terms of look and feel with the expense app. We want to maintain some consistency across the apps. Let's take a look at this timesheet that I have that's a work in process. We've chosen, particularly based on customer feedback, to present this in a calendar view, and so we can take a look at the various entries. You can see the entry over here on Monday. This is the one I just entered on my phone. I need to do a little bit more, make something up that I did on that. To enter my time for that day. And so I'm going to go do that. I will select a project. And let's see. Let's do a different project. Cycle sales. I'm going to create that. It's going to now add that, and so now you can see that that extra 2 hours has been added, and let's say that that's complete. I can go ahead and submit that timesheet. Okay, so now it's been submitted. It's on into workflow, and we're going to hopefully see that later. Now you can see that that one has changed state. It's now in review, and you can see the others that I have. Those that are in rejected state, those that are in approved state. If I want to take a look at another timesheet, I can look at that. We can see some of the different views. And so I might have a more detail. We provide a more detailed view. There might be notes, for example, as indicated, so I can open this up, see what the notes are. We also will provide some useful information. So as you go to submit this, again, just at a glance, we can provide a set of information that will be valuable as you create your timesheet. So, along with expense and time quite often go together. So that's a little view of the time app. All right. So now we'll jump back and see where we're headed where we're at on the demos. Okay. All right. Okay, and so that was demo number 3, diving into the tablet apps for both expense and time. All right. So the next area is ordering products and services, and this area is still we don't have anything to announce here. This is still the EP experience. So let me just run through that to highlight the capabilities of our employee purchasing. Okay. All right, so if we go back to EP as our starting point, employee self-service portal, I can simply go to order products, and within order products, I can go into my employee purchasing experience. And one of the things that Tricia needed to do is to order some software. And so she's going to do that. I need to apologize. Something has happened in my demo box to the images within the last couple of hours, and so they have decided to hide themselves. So anyway, what you'll see here are images that come from the, whoops, that's exciting, the catalog. So this experience is all a function of the admin-defined set of categories in the category hierarchy that you've set up, as well as the admin-defined set of products and the admin-defined catalog. So this is a very flexible experience. So whatever it is, basically, whether it be products or services that you want to expose to employees, you have a very flexible means of doing that. And so what you're seeing here is based on a catalog that we've created for this set of demo data, based on the same set of categories and products that are all part of the demo. But this can actually be really very customized, very tailored to your experience. So in this case, we have some standard software that the company wants to offer. And so let's say that I want to order a copy of Office, Home, and Business. I can select on the cart. And you can see the message here that that's been added to my shopping cart. So it can be a very simple experience. Now I've just simply added this to my cart. The next thing that I want to do is to order a monitor. And in the case of monitors, I want to actually use one of the company's outside vendors. So in this case, Zones. And Zones has their own online catalog, and I can simply hook this up. In the industry, this is, of course, called Punch-Out. So I can just go to the Zones catalog, and based on the policy that has been set up between my company and Zones, there will be a set of products available to me as an employee of the company that I can order. So if I go to Hardware, I can then go to Monitors, and I can search through monitors. Here's one. If I'm thinking a 42-inch might be just a convenient size for my office. Yeah. Not to mention the games coming up as March Madness rolls out. And so I can select this, and I'm going to simply check out. Now, what's going to happen in this case, you'll notice I didn't end up with a Zones checkout experience. Because this has been configured as a punch-out situation, what will happen is that item is actually being brought back into my shopping cart, and before I purchase that item, it's going to go through my normal purchasing process. It will create a purchase requisition. You'll see just a moment. That will be approved, and then it will go on through the sourcing folks to create a purchase order for it. So anyway, that kind of rounds out and completes the punch-out experience. So I've got those two items in my cart. At this point, I want to just simply place an order. I'm going to give some sort of a reason here. Let's call it project use. People don't usually argue about that if you say it's for an important project. I've heard. I would never do that on myself, of course. And then I go ahead and submit this. And when I do that, we've used a wizard experience to go from my shopping cart to creating a purchase requisition. And the nice part is, for the most part, your users don't really need to know that they're creating a purchase requisition. What they know is that, hey, I've got this great experience where I can search for and find different products, and then when I find them, I add them to my cart, and I check out, and then, and then it goes into the process. And if users want to then see what the status of the things they've ordered, we provide a view for doing that. And so here you can see that I've ordered, a few copies of Office, and I have some other items that I've ordered. This is that monitor number that came from the vendor. And those are the things that are in process. And we can show you which states they're in. And so some of these are, the request has been approved. In some cases, they've actually been received, but it gives me some good visibility. The last thing I'll mention here is this confirm receipt. So part of the shopping experience, or the order products experience, is to enable receipt of items that don't go through central receiving. And so increasingly in our disconnected and distributed, or our connected but distributed world, things will get delivered directly to users. It could be out on the job site, it could be at my desk, but central receiving would have no way of knowing that I've received that item. And so we have in AX, you can configure the capability to send reminder emails to users to say, okay, that item should have been received. Can you please confirm that it's been received, and give them a link back to here. When they come here, they can see, okay, yep, that's an item that is sent to the vendor. I should be receiving it soon. If I've received it, I can simply click on confirm receipt. I will go ahead and close that out. I've received one item, so I'll just go ahead and save and close, and that will now change state to actually being received. And so that's, again, part of that self-service experience. We give the users the convenience of having items delivered to them, and we ask them, in those cases when they receive them, to please go ahead and update the confirmation so that we know that the item's been received, and then it can go on into the invoicing process. So that's basically a lap around the order products capability that is part of our self-service story. All right, so that concludes the fourth demo. All right. Okay, so now we want to get into some approval situations. And for this, let me welcome Bashara to join me. Bashara, would you like to introduce yourself and take it from here?
Sure. I'm Bashara Krofe. I'm an engineering manager on the service industries team working with Kyle. I also own the companion app and mobile app for Dynamics AX right now. So what we did is we also heard from customers that Prakash typically has many things to approve, and from invoice to timesheet to expense. So we decided to build an app that consolidates all of these. And we take advantage of the Windows 8 experience. Let me just switch to the app here. So if I go to my Approvals app, you can see that we have the same kind of look and feel as the Expense and Time app. I can look at the documents I have for approval, from expense reports, timesheets, invoices. Basically, any document in AX that has a workflow enabled will be able to bring into this app and have an approval experience with it. So what you saw with Josh earlier is a phone approval with minimum data that comes from the workflow itself, the instructions of the workflow. What we can give you here is a little bit deeper experience, so you can actually do an educated approve, reject decision. If I look at an expense report, this is not a completed product yet, so you gotta bear with me, the charts are missing here. I can look at some of the details of the expense report before I approve it. I can see the list of approvals. I can look at overview to see the workflow history here. I can actually punch out the link and talk to William in this case and see if something I have a discrepancy with it, or send him an email or call him. I'll show you that also when we go to timesheet. I can look at the timesheet that, let me just reset the data here. This was open. So if you recall the timesheet that Kyle just added information to as Trisha, I see that he submitted a 39-hour timesheet for last week. I can look at the same details that you saw on the Timesheet app. I can look at the notes from the entries. I can look at the time summary, the projects he worked on, view them by activities, see what he was really doing, and then look at the project impact. If I do approve this timesheet, what happens to my project budget? And oops, battery charger. Yeah. Just my luck. I can also look at the overview and see the workflow history for the timesheet. And like I said, I can easily click on link, and it'll pop link. Of course, link 13 is installed. Or I can send an email from here to Trisha and ask questions about the timesheet if I need more information. Once I'm done and I have all the information I need here to really approve the timesheet, I can easily click on approve, add the notes. Those are the workflow notes.
Now we know it's a real demo.
Yeah. There we go. And approve it. Timesheet is gone. It's not on my list anymore. It's been approved. This app also gives you different views. I can view by submitter. I can see all the, if I want to just approve all Trishas at the same time, whether they're expense or time or invoices, or I can view them by date, the date of the submission, or by type. And I can look at my pending approvals, or I can look at my recently approved or rejected documents from AX. That's all I have.
All right. Thanks, Bashar. All right. So it's on its way. Yeah, somebody got their wish and my microphone died. Anyway, so take a look on the iPhone app, for example. Again, here we have the time capture. So we started with entering or updating time on the phone. Then you saw that was updated when we got to the Windows 8 app. I added additional information in the Windows 8 app, and then I submitted it from the Windows 8 Timesheet app, and then Bashara, using the approvals timesheet app, saw that same set of information and approved it. So it, just to know that on the back end, we're using AX throughout. It's syncing to AX. AX knows what's going on throughout that process. These apps are simply complementary and a nice companion to the back end data flow that's happening there. So let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's just do a quick recap, and then we'll have time for some questions. So we talked about a fair amount of things from the beginning of an expense report, including expense capture. We looked at how we do expense report management and how we'll do it in the future with the companion apps that are coming down the line. We threw in time capture as part of that. We talked about the ordering products experience. And again, that's something that even though we don't have the companion app for creating the orders themselves, that approval for the purchase requisition would show up on the approval app. And then we took a look at the approval process. We also highlighted the fact that we can do approval via email. So the other thing to mention here is, so we have the information for configuring AA apps that is on PartnerSource. We have the email approval information that's out there as well. The other investment that we've made, or the other set of information we've just recently published, is guidance for developers who want to use this same pattern. So if there's another area or you have needs to create mobile applications, whether it be for customer, partner, ISV, we have documented a pretty extensive white paper on how you could develop applications using this same pattern. Leveraging the services in AIF, leveraging the Azure Service Bus, leveraging the existing authentication mechanism of Active Directory. So that is also now out there on PartnerSource and CustomerSource. So that's available to look at as well. Pardon me? Yeah, it's search for developing mobile apps, and you'll find it in partner source and customer source under that title. Yep, it's just a white paper. All right. So let's go ahead and pause, take some questions. And before we get into the heavy round of questions, once again, I'd love to encourage you to come see us at the booth, come get your hands on the app, fill out feedback, give us feedback on what you're seeing. We would love to hear that. So with that, let's open it up for questions or comments. Yes? So the question is, do you have to have workflow set up in AX? Now, is that, you mean to be able to process expense reports? Yes. So we do require workflow as the means of getting the expense reports to an approved state. Now, you can set up an automated workflow if you want, and so and that could actually be conditional. So there could be expenses at a certain level. You automatically approve those. Above a certain level, those would go to someone to approve. And then beyond that, you can also set a workflow up for auto posting if you want. So those could actually be auto posted. You can decide how much of that you need intervention in. Yeah, it's a good question. Yes. Okay. The question is, in addition to sending in timesheets, can you send in billable hours? So do you mean just billable hours against that project?
Multiple employees on a single job.
Right.
A single employee on multiple jobs.
Yep.
Through the approval process sent back to bill.
Okay. So let's take the two scenarios. Let's take a single employee on multiple jobs. Now, the mechanism or the container that we use to approve those is a timesheet. And so that's the container that we use to send for approval. So one employee can certainly, and actually you saw that in the demo, is when I'm adding my hours, I can select a different project, a different deliverable or activity within that project, and so forth. So that case is covered. The other case that you talked about is, how about the same job but multiple employees? And so once again, the timesheet's the typical container we use for that. You can create timesheets on behalf of others, and so we have a delegation mechanism. And so you can say, somebody can be set up. If I'm the foreman on the job, I could be set up to enter the time for the different individuals on the job, and then that would create different, a timesheet for each one of those and submit that timesheet. So we have a means of capturing both of those scenarios through timesheet. Yep. Okay. I think I missed somebody in the back, and then I'll come back here. Yes. Question about BlackBerry app. That one hasn't landed, heavily on our roadmap. How valuable, how important is that for your scenarios? Yeah. Now, that's a good question. That one hasn't. We've prioritized other things above that. It wouldn't preclude us from doing that, but we felt that it was, the higher priority was to continue to grow the apps on the 3 platforms so far. But if you have more feedback on that, catch us in the booth or catch us offline on that. Yes, and then let's see. Yes. We can, yeah. In fact, there were some in there that we had shown you in the Windows 8 app, but absolutely. And we have a fairly deep capability depending on the region you're in. In some regions, some cases, like in the U.S., we're not as smart, and so it has to be very simple, like the number of miles times an amount, and that's how much you get reimbursed, right? That based on our tax laws. But there are other cases, like in the U.K., that it's much more detailed, and so it's based on the type of vehicle and that kind of thing. And actually, and I believe, if I understand, that actually carries across to employers through the year. So if you change employers through the year, then we have there's like a maximum number of miles, and so then you have a way of, if an employee joins the company and they had a certain number of miles at a private employer, that you can actually load it up, and so you can reflect that. So yeah, you can have all kinds of fun with mileage in there. Yes, yes, in the back. Yeah, the question is, is intercompany supported? And is that question related to expense or expense and time both? Yes, both are supported. I don't think I had it configured to show up, but we haven't shown this. We haven't built that part in the Windows 8 apps yet. But in employee self-service portal, you'll see that ability to do cross-company both expense and time. Yeah, we will need to support that for the Windows 8 apps over time. Yeah, that's an important scenario. Uh-huh. Correct. Yeah, exactly. So the question was, where does unreconciled show up? Let me just pop back into there and we'll show you on the app. And there's a functional equivalent of this in the EP version as well. Uh-huh. It does. Yep. And as soon as this refreshes, I'll show that to you. Yeah. Anyway, we'll give it a second. Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
So this timesheet entry goes to the timesheet and not to the payroll.
Correct. Yeah, this is project timesheet, not payroll entry. We know that over time, one of the things that we need to do is rationalize that in a future release.
No, on that line, with project categories, can we share here the same categories?
Correct. Yep. Yep.
Do you have projects set up that only certain project categories are enabled and allowed? If somebody is using those, does that get respected when they put this in, or is it later?
Okay. Yeah, so the question has to do with categories. And the first part of the question was, can categories be shared across expense and project? And they can. And you can have a non-overlapping set. So you can have some categories that only exist for projects, some that only exist for expense, and some that can be used for both. Second part, say the second part again.
One that you're going to use for both.
Uh-huh.
On the project side, you can say that only certain categories are allowed for that project. So if you're putting in your expenses, calling that category, calling that project.
Right.
When you enter it,
Yes. Okay, the question is, will it respect? And that's in, yeah, so that would show up when you're validating that project, right? And I think that's more, I think that's more relevant on the time side, is where we tend to see more validation there. Right.
I'm wondering when somebody goes to put in their time expense and chooses a category that has not been validated for that project.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. So on the expense experience, that's a good question. Right? I need to. Yeah, I'm not sure at what point it validates the category by project. Is it on save or submit? I'm not sure exactly where that would hit. Okay, So that's one I need to. Yeah, you should ping me on. Get back to you on. Okay, good question. Okay, yeah, in the back.
Just wondering what the differences are in functionality with X 2012 versus 2009.
In relationship to expense.
Yeah, I mean, just, what with the apps and the mobile,
Okay.
all this available in 2012 and 2009, or some functions available in 2009?
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. So the question is, which of the companion apps are available for 2009 versus 2012? Actually, we don't at this point. We're not setting any expectation that the companion apps will work against 2009. The thing that we're building against now is we are committed that the apps will work with 2012 R2, and then there may be some opportunities for part of the functionality, like for expense capture, for example, to work with prior versions of 2012. But as we progress, for example, we did some significant investment in timesheet and intercompany time and so forth in R2, which we're taking advantage of. And so our time app would likely not work with, it wouldn't function with base 2012. So, yeah, so we're kind of making, these are investments really largely, the safest thing is to assume that they work with R2 is the safe assumption at this point. Yeah. Yes? No, the question is, good question. The question is there a duplicate receipt check? No. We don't have that feature. Yeah, as an approver, you would have a view of the expenses and the receipts that were submitted. So you could, I guess, that the approver is the duplicate receipt checker. So, yeah. Now, because of my little habit of reusing them, I'm not sure how motivated I would be to address that. Yeah. But yeah, the approver would certainly have a view of that. Yeah. Yes? Yeah, the question is that when you define a category, can you specify the general ledger account for that? And the answer is yes. You could basically set the dimensions for that category. It's so that mileage would show up, distinct from hotel and so forth. Yeah. Yep. Yes. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? I couldn't quite hear. Yeah, so the question is, I think what you're getting to, the question is around, can I do VAT recovery of expenses? I think isn't that the base question? And the answer is yes. So we have the capability of configuring, the tax recovery process basically based on the category. And also it's a function of location as well, right, to do the appropriate VAT recovery. So for those, those companies that are spending, they're spending expense dollars in a given locale for which they could do VAT recovery, they would then be able to, you'd capture the right set of information, and then your accounting folks could then say, okay, here's the set of information I need to go file that recovery. Yes. And we'd love feedback as you use that too. Yeah. Yes. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just, do you mind coming just to the mic? I missed that call. I couldn't hear you. Yes. So there's two things, and I think you may be asking some of each of the question. One, there is a mechanism by which you can apply policy based on the categories, and I'm sure my company has done that with things that my expense report. I'm quite confident of that. The other thing that you can do is if your company uses per diem, meaning that if I travel 5 days, I get so much each day for meal and hotel and so forth. You can also set up per diem, and so then the employee accounts for that by saying, okay, here were the days I traveled, and that indicates how much reimbursement the employees do based on that. So you can do both of those. Yeah. Yes. So you can say, if this is a meal and it's over this amount, that's a policy violation, and you can either have it be a warning and the user has to enter justification, or you can have it be a hard stop and say, no, sorry, that one's over the amount, that line failed, that fails, and you've got to correct the report before you can submit it. So you can do either of those. Okay. All right, so I show that we have 2 more minutes left for questioning, and then we're happy to stick around and answer additional questions as well. Okay, the question is this for expense or okay, so let me answer the question for expense. My understanding, and I'm not a licensing expert, my understanding is that that falls under the employee self-service license, entering expense reports. And then, do you know, is time entry is an employee self-service functionality as well. And yeah, approval is task user. And so if you have a user that is licensed for self-service, that would work whether they use EP or whether they use the companion apps. Yep. Okay, so we do one last question and then... Okay, if that's it. If not, let me thank you so much for taking the time to learn a little bit more about time and expense. And let me show you some reference information, and we hope to see you at the booth. Thank you very much.